You could have an entire gym like this or one kettlebell. You choose. If you like running and you're ignoring kettlebells, you're doing yourself a huge disfavor. Kettlebells offer you something no other training tool can offer, at least not in the same way. So if you're on a heavier side and have a background maybe in powerlifting or weightlifting, want to get more into running, then kettlebell training will help you functionalize your body, meaning that you will force your body to move in a system rather than isolated muscles. And that's what actually translates into running. If you're more on the skinny side and you're trying to get into weight training, trying to get heavier, trying to gain muscle, then kettlebell is a fantastic exercise because it's very simple. It's only one tool that you can use. There's 30 plus exercises you can do, train your entire body, and you don't need to overcomplicate things with fancy machines. There's no doubt that over the past 10 years, kettlebells have gained a lot of popularity and more of a widespread acceptance, partly due to guys like Joe Rogan who use kettlebells almost every day in their workouts. But even if that is true, there is still a lot of people that kind of look down on kettlebells. There's a lot of doubt coming especially from the weightlifting and the powerlifting communities, saying things like, you can't get heavy enough with it, it's not really optimized for either strength training or cardio. But let's look past all of this and kind of take a step back. Kettlebells offer you very unique and massive benefits if you use them properly and in the way that they're intended to be used. And the secret is that it's not always about strength and size. So let's look at the first and main criticism that kettlebells get. You can't load them heavy enough. So here's the truth. A weightlifter who's used to squatting 200 kilograms will squint at a 30 kilo kettlebell. But he doesn't get it. It's not just about the weight. Kettlebell training is much more about the connective tissues, about the joints and the tendons that are connecting all of your muscles together. Training muscles that stabilize your trunk, training for the real world, not just for the mirror. And that's exactly why Joe Rogan uses them. He's a martial artist, he's a fighter. He needs to be functional. He needs to have rotational forces. He needs to have stability in his knees, in his trunk.
Nothing's isolated, nothing's...
I know.
Everything is the whole body moves as a unit.
That's why he uses kettlebells. And that's the reason you should use them. So for example, if I'm coaching someone who's trying to get into running and doesn't have a lot of knowledge about the gym, all the different machines and how they work, then kettlebell training is the simplest and most efficient training modality. But that's not all. It's also the most fun. With a single kettlebell that you can literally store in your living room next to your TV, you can do 20, 30 exercises that will train everything from your feet all the way to your wrists and your hands. Another reason why kettlebell training is so amazing for beginners is if you don't have a lot of strength, you can effectively overload these exercises, starting with very low weight kettlebells, focusing on technique and the movements that are so important to generating this force, and work your way up the ladder and go to 30, 35 kilo kettlebells, which are on the heavier side, even having 2 in your hands. So this one training tool can take you a long way. But weightlifting often trains your muscles individually. What kettlebells will do will connect them into a strong chain that will actually translate to better real-world strength. The second criticism kettlebells often get is that they're kind of halfway between a cardio exercise and a strength building exercise. And that's true. They kind of live in this world between weightlifting and jump roping. If you put them together, you would have kettlebell training. But that's also exactly what makes them such a great exercise for building muscle endurance. You're not training your 1 rep max here. You're training to move and use your muscles over longer periods of time. So what's the difference? 1 rep max, for example, in a bench press is how much weight you can push off in 1 repetition. Simple. Muscular endurance would be how many push-ups you can do. All right, so you can have a very, very high 1 rep max, let's say 150 kilograms in a bench press, and you can still have low muscular endurance and only be able to do 20 push-ups. On the opposite side, you can have quite a low 1 rep max, only be able to, let's say, bench press 80 kilos, but maybe be able to do 50 push-ups. Okay, often we see this, for example, with climbers. Climbers have incredible muscular endurance. They can climb for hours using only their body weight. But in a 1 rep max, they will have less force than a weightlifter. And that's exactly why kettlebells are so interesting for people who are trying to get into running. When you're running a lot, you need muscular endurance. So you're going to be climbing hills, okay? You're going to be running downhill, which will hammer your quads. You need endurance in those muscles, and you get that with this sort of training. So of course, there's other exercises that train your muscular endurance. Rowing, cycling, monkey bars, or repetitive lunges. But the superpower of kettlebells is that you only have one tool that you can use for all of these muscle groups. And it's super fun. The third criticism we like to give kettlebells is that you can't train for a very long time because they will wear you out. But again, this can be seen as a huge upside. If you don't have a lot of time, you go to the gym and you have 30 minutes, Doing a kettlebell session will be incredible because in 30 minutes you will work your cardio, you will work your muscular endurance, you will work on all these functional movements, and at the same time you will feel like you did a real workout because it makes you sweat really quickly. Let's look at traditional kettlebell swings. Very simple exercise that is a full body functional movement, and it will get you sweating in 5 minutes. And again, for people who don't care about cardio, that's a bummer. But no one should ignore cardio. Strength without cardio is so useless. If you get gassed after only 2 minutes of running, moving furniture around, taking the stairs, or just hauling groceries, then kettlebells might be exactly what you need. Now, thanks to influencers and social media, we've become very biased to what we should actually be training for. We see all of these amazing physiques with bulging muscles, six-packs, and Dorito backs. But don't forget that most influencers are where they are because of their genes. Very often, that is the reason they have become influencers. And on top of that, they have sacrificed a lot of time, a lot of delicious food, and a lot of fun as well to achieve that physique. And so for people who are busy and who are realistically trying to cut down fat, build some muscle, and just look and feel better, then a 30-minute kettlebell workout will be actually much more efficient at doing that rather than training these fancy machines and overcomplicating the process.
Before I show you how kettlebells helped me recover from my last injuries, here's my top 3 kettlebell moves for stronger running. First up, the single arm swing. It's one of the best ways to get into kettlebell training. Simple, fun, and surprisingly powerful. You can play around with the snatch at the top. It fires your core and builds that rock solid foundation runners need. I love this as a quick full body warm up that spikes my heart rate and gets me ready for strength or running. Number 2, the single leg deadlift. Every time I add these in, I feel like I have a little turbo in my legs the next day. It lights up all those tiny stabilizers, from your foot muscles to your shins, knees, hips, and lower back. It's one of the best ways to build balance and power without crashing your body like a heavy barbell deadlift can. And third, the farmer's carry. Most runners skip it, but this is gold for your core and posture. It trains you to stay stable with every stride and helps build denser, stronger bones. A really important factor for longevity. I learned about a surprisingly good variation from a podcast with Peter Attia. It's
running for about 15 minutes with a kettlebell. You just change sides when it feels uncomfortable. This will work your stability and core exercises so well and fix all your imbalances. So let me demonstrate.
So with all of that said, thanks all for watching till the end. Stay wild and peace.